The topic for today is motivation. So how to motivate students. My dad was a big Zig Ziglar guy, so I love this quote. People say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing, but we recommend you do it daily.
But I believe the great is still yet to come. I won't stop fighting, man, until I'm done.
Welcome to the 18th edition of the Breakfast Ball. I am your host, Bob Cardia. To my far left, your far right, the dashing Richie Stoltz. And in the middle, one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Waleska Batista. So she is here today to class up the joint between Richie and I, which is, true, basically. Yeah.
Very.
Wally is a doctor, and I figured I'd start today with an educational quote. Education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. And that's a Nelson Mandela quote. So without me speaking all day as I usually do, I'm going to turn to Wally here and just ask Wally to tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, so I'm from the Dominican Republic originally. I came to this country when I was 5. My family left the Dominican Republic because we lived in extreme poverty. Talk about motivation, right? I became a teacher quite by chance. That was not what I was set out to do. I was going to be a lawyer, actually.
I can see that, actually.
I'm sure.
I can really can.
I can argue. I can state
I
my
talk
point
to
of
Wally
research.
every day. Yeah, she should have been a lawyer.
But you know what? It was that whole thing about the butterfly effect. It's like, you know what? And a series of things happened, and I ended up in education, and that is a decision that I do not regret. It's not an easy job. It is not for the faint of heart. But I found that was my true calling. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing that. This is now started my 23rd year.
She started when she was 8 years old.
I started when I was 8 in education, and it's been an interesting path. And I've taught every grade except for kindergarten. Wow! So a range. So I've taught from 6-year-olds all the way to 18, 19-year-olds in the past 20 some odd years.
I have enormous respect for teachers because people. Like when Richie and I were teaching the group lessons, and I used to be married. My student said to me, "Said, well, you and your wife are teachers." I'm like, I'm not a teacher. Now, mind you, I'm a golf instructor, right? I'm a professional golfer, but I'm not a teacher. And then, what do you mean you're not a teacher? I'm like, look, people want to come see me. Like, people. It's fun to come see a golf instructor. I want to get better, yada yada yada. People will do what Wally does. Half those kids don't want to be there. Actually, and that's generous, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it might be, especially my subject. You got to have 1 year to graduate, and it might just be seat time. I'm just here to get my credits and get out.
yeah, that's true. So the topic for today is motivation. So how to motivate students. So my dad was a big Zig Ziglar guy, so I love this quote. People say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing, but we recommend you do it daily. I love that.
Yeah.
So
They recommend it daily?
yeah, I know.
No.
That's why I have you sit on the other end. I always have the buffer between you. So if you don't, I'm going to tell a story because of how I met your family, which was really really cool. I have 4 kids, as many of you know, and I just got done coaching my oldest in baseball, and I was with Rutgers, and we were driving to South Carolina in a bus, and the bus broke down. So I'm on the side of the road in God knows where, somewhere in South Carolina, and my phone rings, and it's Lee Federline, the former president of Cherry Hill American, which I ended up being a whole other story. But Lee's on the phone saying, "Bob, I got great news for you because you're the new coach of our 6th AA team here at Cherry Hill American." And I'm like, "That's great, but I didn't apply for the job." I'm like, I didn't. That's not something I was on my radar to do. He's like, "Don't worry." He goes, "We already picked your team."
Special guest alert.
Special guest walking down during the show. DMG just walked in the house. Let's go. So DMG's like, what is that? What was that TV
DMG,
show?
You Know Me?
Oh, no. Yeah. What was that TV show? Was it Tool Time? Where the guy was on the other side of the fence?
Yeah. Tim the Toolman Taylor.
So that's what DMG is today. So, welcome, DMG.
Welcome, hello. Thank
Hello.
you guys. Hey, how are you doing?
So I'm now coaching the new AAA baseball team at Cherry Hill American, or AA it was. It was AA. So anyway, he's like, I picked your team for you. Your team color is yellow. And I'm like, you picked my team and we're yellow? I'm like, so I show up for the first day of practice. And let me just tell you what, it was a train wreck. And this team was like, it was probably the 15 kids that signed up last, and I put my son in there, and it was like, okay. And I literally, other than my son and Noah Greenspun, were the only two kids that could reach the plate from the pitcher's mound. It was like, oh my, this is going to be a long, long year. So about 10 minutes into practice, a car pulls up, right? 10 minutes late, but it's perfect timing for us. Walks out, and out gets out Abe and Alec, A-Rod. And we walk up, and this team is going to be just a disaster. And I walk up, and I'm like, okay, because the first time I ever met Alec. I'm like, he's like, oh, my name's Alec Rodriguez. I'm like, A-Rod. I'm like, that's great. And I said, well, we're Yankee fans. I'm like, I love you people. This is fantastic. So I hand Alec a baseball, and I say, okay, Alec, I'm like, this is a pitching mound, and this is 46 feet. I'm like, okay, can you throw the ball over the plate? And he tilts his head like a puppy. He's like, from the windup or the stretch? And I'm like, okay, first pitch, whoosh, right down the middle. I took all our uniforms. We did Bad News Bears stuff with them, and I said, you know what? That was Kelly Leak that season. Okay, Alec, if the ball's anywhere near you, catch it. We actually made it to the finals that year too. So I guess my question now for Wally would be like, a kid was like clearly he was more motivated than 99% of every kid I had out there. Like, how does a kid get to that age and is just that motivated to be great? I mean, was there anything you guys did, or was he just born that way?
I think when I speak in generalities, and at this point, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
When we talk about motivation, how
okay.
can I motivate a kid who's hungry, who doesn't have shelter? And then the other thing is the 5 love languages. How do you feel loved? So my son's an only child, as you know.
I do.
And that was our family thing. That is what we did. And so baseball.
Okay.
Everything was baseball.
By the way, it was just opening day New York Yankees. Let's go. Wally and I both.
Yay, go Yankees. Soto. Okay. So I think that with Alec, and when he's your guest,
Yes.
he can tell you if I'm right or wrong. I think that's how he felt loved.
Yeah.
We tend to, and I think as human beings, we do seek approval of other people. And it
For
was
sure.
just like, that was he and his dad, that was their thing. It was
truly
baseball,
was.
baseball,
Yes,
baseball. I mean, there was no team practice. Abe and Alec were on that ball field. People would call us like, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. We were walking past, the complex, and Abe and Alec were out there, you know, and that's
And he wanted to be out there,
And he
though.
wanted to be out there because that was the time that he spent with Dad, and that's how he felt loved. Like and I know one of his primary love languages, quality time. So it's like, okay, I get to spend time with Dad. So this is going to be our thing. Actually, I remember when Alec was born, the nurses make small talk and they're like, look at those legs, they're soccer legs. And his father looked at the nurse, soccer. It's baseball.
Yeah. You're from the Dominican
We're from the
Republic.
Dominican. What are you
Baseball.
talking about? Like, you're talking about soccer. And baseball became such a thing with Alec. And I have a friend, Susan Levy, who was my neighbor, and she's my colleague also. He would go, our backyards were, adjacent to each other, and he would go outside and say, Miss Susan, and he would point to the stars in the sky, and he would say, there's first base, there's second base, there's third base. That was the baseball constellation for him.
Right.
And my best story is that this was when, there was an age, he started, this whole baseball thing very, very, very young.
Very young.
And, they get to age 3 and 4, and they get to be a little challenging, their behavior. So my son my son has no artistic talent whatsoever. Sorry. He may have athletic talent, but artistic, no. So when, he would get on my nerves and he did something he wasn't supposed to, I said, okay, arts and crafts it is. So I gave him all the arts and crafts supplies. And
So that was a punishment?
That was a punishment. Now, this kid, he's something else, his personality. So he's like, I'll show you. So you know what he did? And I had to have this thing framed. He drew Yankee Stadium. Like, I have it framed. It's in the house on the wall. And with glitter for the lights and everything else, he goes, here's my arts and crafts.
I'm tearing up. Beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah, because I always wonder. Like, I've coached a lot of. I had Jalen Brunson on my basketball team at one point when I was coaching Colton, and then I have A-Rod. Now, A-Rod, her son, he was showcased on ESPN a couple times last year, and God willing, so he'll probably be drafted in the MLB this year. And I God willing, let's hope. He's gonna have a great year. Yeah. So far, so good.
So far, so good.
So, I mean, I always wonder what the component is for that. So, I know in coaching and how I motivate. Like I think one of the biggest things that I do is I think competition really, really feeds motivation. When you have a number of good players in the room, it always makes you want to be better. But I want to throw the question to both of you guys. Like so, actually, I'll throw it to Richie first. So Richie, what is there an area that you think that you found to be particularly successful in motivating someone to be better?
I like to show them how great they can be. So this was something we did over at Methodist the one year, where we went out for practice, but it wasn't just, go out and play 18 holes. It was, you had to play self-scramble. So you hit 2 golf balls and you play whichever ball was better, and, you go on from there and you see how low you can shoot. Well, people were going out there shooting 6, 7, 8, 9 under, going, wow, I can do that. I can do that on a normal day.
Right.
So it was, I feel like a lot of people, they look at the negatives.
Yeah.
They hit a bad shot and they go, man, I stink.
Yeah.
Opposed to when they hit the good shot, they go, wow, I can do that again.
It's so great because my lesson last night, Tom, if you're watching, because I was subscribed last night, he said to me something like, well, now you're seeing the real me. And I'm like, man, you got to subscribe to our podcast. I think that crap don't fly. Like I've never met you think Tiger Woods or Babe Ruth, or like Babe Ruth grounded out, or Tiger Woods missed a putt. You're seeing the real me. Like, no, that's not the way you think. If you want to be successful, you have to think everyone's gonna fail. Everyone's gonna fail. I know DMG failed once, right?
One time.
One time, right? Yeah, there you go. So, all right. Well, let me throw it to you. What do you? Is there any method of motivation that you found successful?
With students, yes. Food.
Will, you know what? If you want to come back on the...
And I say that, and it was interesting. So this year, last year I had a very challenging year as an educator. As you know,
remember,
I was ready to throw in the towel. I was
Yes.
like, I am done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. And, I still have a few more years before I can retire. So I said,
For 30, you got about another 30, 35 years.
So I said, you know what can I change? Because we can't control what others do. We can only control what we do. So I said,
You
what
and
can
I talk
change?
about that all the time.
And again, I was talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, our population is very diverse. And it just all walks of life, all ethnicities, religions, and I love that about my community, our community.
Yep.
And but I noticed that, our high school students have to be in class by 7:30 in the morning. Against all research that says, the circadian rhythms for teenagers, but they're coming and they're like zombies, and a lot of them wake up late. They don't eat breakfast. And I said, you know what? These kids they're hungry. And then lunch was at 10:30 in the morning, which is when you're supposed to be eating breakfast. So by the time I got the kids in the afternoon, they're starving. And so I said, my first class of the day and my last class of the day, I'm going to feed them. And I went to Costco and I got all these snacks, and you have to, it completely changed the kids and their behavior. And they were, because I was like, hey, but if we, don't, behave or do what we're supposed to do, I would put up a word up on the wall and erase a letter if they were doing something they weren't supposed to, then we don't get snacks. And you had to see the peer
That's what
pressure.
I do with Richie, actually.
That's exactly what you do with me.
You had to
I feed him every morning.
Yeah, you had to see the peer pressure where they were like, stop, you can't do that, we won't get our snacks. And it was like, that also created something else. When we talk about motivation, is that it fostered it created a relationship with the students, because it's like, okay, this teacher cares enough about us, and and it's not like it cost me a ton of money to give them a a protein bar or something like that, but they felt comfortable coming to me, because you don't know what the situation is at home with some of these kids.
No idea.
And we're just, sometimes we make the assumption that it's just kids who come from, and I don't like to use the word, disadvantaged backgrounds, but that's not always the case. You don't know what's happening in any household where a kid may not get breakfast or a snack or whatever. And something as simple as we don't have the traditional water fountains in the hallways anymore. You have these refilling stations, and there are kids that don't have water bottles, or you forgot your water bottle and they're thirsty. I keep cups in my room, disposable cups. And they feel comfortable, okay, I'm gonna come get this cup. So what I found is that this year, my relationships with students have changed in that they feel comfortable, and they almost feel like I have someone that I can go to, and their performance in class has changed, interestingly enough.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
that comes back to, you and I talk about this, acts of service.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, somebody cares enough. This is how they feel loved. So in my experience, it's been, like I said, two things. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Are my needs being met?
Yeah.
And secondly is, how do I feel loved? Now, it could also work in reverse, like with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In my family, the motivation to work as hard as we do and do the things that we do is because we, like, if I don't think I ever showed you pictures of where we used to live. Like,
You described it. Yeah, it was.
we didn't
yeah.
have a bathroom in our house. We didn't have electricity.
Yeah.
And people are shocked when I tell them, because they look at me and they're like, "But you do very well." And I'm like, because we never want to go back to
There,
that.
yeah.
So for some kids, it's going to be, I am motivated to do well in school or do well in sports. Like, how many Dominican baseball players out there? You know why you have so many great Dominican? I don't think it's that genetically we're superior. Well, maybe, but no, I'm just kidding. It's that may be their only way out of poverty.
Right. So I'm watching Shark Tank, as I watch it a lot. Like when I'm working on it, a lot of times I put it on the background. And what's the blonde shark's name? Not Laura Grenier, the other.
Barbara Corcoran.
Yeah. And she was saying that her top 10, I believe it was, successes were all people that weren't overly like intelligent. They came from, or intelligent in school book smart, but they came from basically underprivileged backgrounds, and they work their butts off. That's what they do. There is, I mean, I love it because that's the truth. Like I not getting political, but like in this country, I think a lot of people don't understand how good this country can be to people. If you work hard enough, you can get to where you want to be. And like the people that have had the struggle is real. The people that have actually had to fight through that struggle typically do better, and they appreciate it more. They appreciate like where they've gotten in life. So it's interesting because you and I, as much as we talk, we never had the conversation about Alec. Was he always like that? And I get it, the love language with baseball and dad and the whole nine. Yeah, I think that's awesome actually. Yeah. Good. And he's a great kid. What kid? How old is he? 20?
He's going to be 23.
Yeah. You know what? It bothers me actually. It doesn't bother me, but it's kind of. I was at Dick's Sporting Goods maybe last year, and this guy taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around. Hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, coach. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm thinking, wait, I'm not sure. One of the first players I ever graduated at Rutgers. He was probably in his mid 40s by this point, and I'm like. Man, he's gotten a little older. I'm thinking, I don't get old like that yet. Somebody asked me recently, do you plan on growing old? I'm like, no, don't plan on doing that, and that's not something I plan on doing. And you guys know I'm crazy that way.
I've heard that like 100 times already.
Yeah.
Everybody, right?
Yeah, does not get old.
I don't get old. No, I'd rather burn out than grow old, man. I'd rather be the shooting star. But anyway. So, Rich, I'm sorry I didn't let you completely finish your thoughts on motivation, but I do like it because it's Michael Jordan. That's what you were describing is what I've read a lot about Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan, I said, who do you compare yourself to? And he said, I really don't compare myself to anybody. I constantly want to be a better version of myself. So wherever I am now, I want to be better than that. And don't worry about what Ed and Joe and Magic and Larry are doing. I want to be the best version of myself, and that's basically what you're saying. When you put yourself in that position, and you say to yourself, hey, look, I'm capable of greatness. I think we all are basically. Yeah. That was one of the questions I had for both of you guys. But is everybody capable of greatness? I think everybody is. I just don't know if everybody's prepared to do what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and what I said, that's what I do in my lessons. Mm-hmm. So when I'm teaching and someone hits a great shot, if you're ever anywhere around me, you'll hear me yell, scream and go, let's go,
yes,
let's go.
Absolutely.
That was a perfect shot. Because I feel like it gets them a little bit excited, like, wow, I did just do that. And the golf instructor's even that excited that I, hit that well of a shot.
Yep.
Even if it's, 100-year-old Joe Schmo that just gets it up in the air, I'm like, let's go.
Yep. Well, I had... another student recently, like they hit like 1 out of every 10 shots well, and it was actually an older woman. She goes, well, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, no. You know what that one good shot means to me? And she's like, I don't know what. I'm like, it means you're capable of doing it every time. Yeah. if you hit one great shot, it means you can hit them all great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can birdie the first, you can birdie all 18.
That's it. Vision 50, Vision 54. That's the name of Annika Sorenstam. Her book. I actually met the authors. They signed it for me. She has a book called Vision 54. So in golf, typically 72 is the best round. So if you birdie every hole, you shoot 54. Never been done before, but like it's possible, right? I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I think everything's possible. So I don't know. So and then we get to the point where, like, when you're working with people, can everybody, like, is everyone capable? Yes. Can everyone be fixed? That's a whole nother question. You and I ask that question all the time. So,
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? And I'm gonna, bring back to the education background. Sometimes you have a student who's terrible for you, won't do a thing for you. But then, we have the student data management system, and I can go on and see what their grades are in other classes. But they're stellar for another teacher.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
And it really
They're
comes
easier.
down to, well, you know what? Sometimes that is the case. Yes, sometimes that is the case. But sometimes is the relationship that they have with that teacher.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the interest. So I have a student, and I love this kid. I absolutely love him. I have my I have a wall with like student pictures, and this kid's going to be up on my wall because it's one that I will remember forever.
It's not Cooper, is it?
Well, Cooper's on my wall. He is on my wall.
He's on lots of lists. Let me tell you. It's my son, by the way.
This student he's a handful. He is absolutely a handful. But he's super smart. But when you talked about the whole book smart thing.
Yeah.
He is not your typical book smart student,
Right.
but he's brilliant.
Yeah.
But this student, his passion is culinary arts. Wants to be a chef. And that's what motivates him. He's like, and I said, oh, listen, if you want to go in the restaurant business, you better learn some Spanish because that's going to be very, very useful.
Yep.
And you would think that this kid, because of his behavior and things like that, would not be do well in Spanish class. He does very, very well. I mean, when he speaks Spanish, like, he doesn't even have an accent. And I'm like, listen, your grades may not be reflective of your ability, but you've got it. And again, it's something that, both of you were actually talking about, like encouraging, like, okay, yeah, you hit one, you got one good shot. Well, okay, when this student does something well, I make sure that I reinforce it because it's like, okay, I feel good now. I can do this. We focus so much on the negative.
No, I think everyone does.
know?
Yeah. Because it's
And
easier to do.
It absolutely.
Yeah.
Where it's, and also the conversation, you were talking about failure. In our schools, it's like kids can't fail.
Yeah.
Kids can't fail.
Yeah.
We have these high stakes testing, and the
Yeah.
kids can't fail. And so I actually had a conversation with the kids about failure.
Yeah.
And I told them it's okay to fail because my kids, like, they get anxiety. I have to do a presentation. I don't know what to do. And it's like school has become such that it's either it's black or white. It's right or it's wrong. And it's not let me try and let's see what happens. So, and I'm probably talking too much, but
It's
that's
okay. No,
me.
we're good.
You're fine.
No, yeah.
I shared with them the story about my greatest failure. You're gonna love this
Okay.
as a Yankees fan.
Oh,
So
oh, not the Red Sox thing.
no, the Red
Okay,
Sox.
cool.
Yeah, because
I
I'm
thought-
sorry.
I
Yeah, the
thought-
Red Sox I can't
I
deal
don't know.
with.
I could bear that story.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so here's the thing. So my son, despite his name, he's a Phillies fan, and that's okay because they're National League. We're American League. We're
love the
we're on the
England.
quest for 28. But he's a Phillies fan. So I had a cake business years ago.
remember.
So I would make all of his birthday cakes. I made cooks for all our immediate family. I think is having a
Yankee
cake.
cake.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I made a 3D Philly Fanatic cake
Okay.
for Alec for his birthday, and I was getting ready to take it to the baseball field because where else would he be on his birthday? On the baseball
sure.
field, and I'm noticing that the cap is starting to like sag. What's going on with this cake? And next thing I know, the cake just collapsed. It took me 3 days to make the cake, and luckily I took a picture of the cake before it collapsed. And you know what I said? The good Lord made me a Yankees fan, and He was not going to allow
Yeah.
me to show up.
I firmly believe that was divine intervention. I
Divine
did.
intervention,
Yeah.
absolutely. But so what I said to my students, I was like,
2009.
and I said, you know what? I was upset that all the
Yeah.
time that I put into it. I wanted my son to be happy to see his Philly Fanatic cake. But what I sat there and did, I was like, what went wrong?
Right. Yeah.
What I realized is like people don't realize that with cakes, you have to actually know a little bit of engineering because it was a 3-dimensional carved cake. I had to support it. Like I had to build a structure to support it. I used a cardboard cake board instead of a wooden one. The cardboard cake board did not support the weight of the cake. So I said,
Solid foundation.
ask me if I've ever had a cake collapse since then.
No.
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 So I said, sometimes you have to learn things on your own, and we just don't allow our kids and our students to figure it out.
Right. So making note, build Philly's cake with cardboard.
But the kids, they don't know how to fail. I mean,
And that's what I'd say. Everybody gets a participation award nowadays.
Yeah, and
That's-
it's
yeah.
that, and one of the things that I did too is like they had to do this one presentation. We just finished that. I took grades out of the equation. I said I'm going to make this pass fail because they're so focused on. Well, you have the students who don't care, then you have the students that I got a 97. Can I reassess to get 100?
Yeah.
And then they're stressing themselves out. I'm like, guys, you're like 16 years old. Relax.
Yeah.
I said this is what you're supposed to do, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to do it over and over and over again until you get it right.
Right.
I'm going to give you feedback because you coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually talked to them. It's like, what is your like after the game? Do you watch film? Yeah. And what does the coach do? Well, it tells us, what we need to do. Blah blah blah. It's like,
Yep.
why is school any different? Why is it okay? You did this. Okay, this you got a 75. That's it. No, it's like you got a 75. So what can you do
Yep.
so that it's a higher grade? And
Yep.
it's not just about the grade on the report card. It's about your growth and your learning. So
We have team meetings every week with the team, and typically speaking, we go over things that are not golf swing related. We go over, motivation stuff, rule stuff, ways to think. It's because there's so much more than just the mechanics of what you do, for sure. But we got to wrap it up pretty soon. But to golf camp, we run it every year. We've been running it. We're the oldest golf school in New Jersey. So I had a mother a couple of years back now. We run dumbbell contests like Team A versus Team B, and we make it a point to make sure everybody wins something by the end of the week because you don't want the kids to feel it's a camp situation. You don't want to feel like they didn't win. But after the one day, I guess Team 1 won a popsicle. Like I buy the Costco, like it's really like 25-cent popsicle, and Team A won on day 2. And a mom comes up to me after, she's like, I love what you're doing here. You guys are so positive, so motivational. But what I kind of have a problem with, I don't agree with. She's like, every kid is a winner. Every kid should win a popsicle every day. And I'm like, thank you. I said, I don't agree. I think that, if you're setting yourself up to say your kid is a winner every day, and even when they don't win, then you're really giving them a false sense of what life is all about. If you want to be great at something, then like the book says, there's no traffic on the extra mile. If oh, hey, I lost today, but guess what? I got a popsicle too. I don't. Anyway, Wally and I and Richie too, for sure. We can talk all day. I mean, we'll talk till the battery runs out of the phone. But anyway, it's all good. I am thrilled. I'm so glad you came today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well, and we'll have you back for sure. We'll have A-Rod on too. So then we'll ask him about you. Anyway, guys, if you like what we're doing, please click the subscribe button. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. And I guess I'll say have a happy Easter. But Easter is going to be Sunday, and this will air on Monday.
Yeah.
So we hope you had a happy Easter. All right. All right. Take care.
Nice.
Bye-bye.
Glass of bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. Alcohol. Because no great story ever started with